This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. We've talked here on this program about addictions before, and maybe that's even how you found us today, just doing a search, and it came up, this podcast, whether it's video or audio. Many different addictions. Could be smoking, could be gambling, et cetera, substances. This is an addiction I'll betcha you weren't aware of, and you quite possibly are addicted to suffering. We get in this mode of just negativity, the victim mentality, and so much more. How do we figure this out? We started talking about this last week. We're going to dig into it again this week, and that's with somebody that provides so much insight as a Reiki therapist, a intuitive guide, interfaith minister. She's a pastoral counselor, transformational speaker as well, and it's great to have her back here. Chris Clearday is on the program. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Very well. Now, we started talking about this last time we got together, and a lot of revelations about this whole situation. But how do we each figure out our own primary addiction to suffering? That's question one. Question two related. Are we all addicted to suffering?
Okay, I'll answer question two first. Yes. Every single one of us is addicted to suffering in a particular unique way. So even someone who is happy all the time, maybe they're addicted to suffering by farting rainbows or wishful thinking, or maybe they're a narcissist who they're happy, but they don't understand the impact of their actions on other people. So yes. And the interesting thing about this addiction to suffering is it weaves its way through our lives. It's in the subtle things. It's the subconscious, the unconscious. It's just whatever takes you out. And one way to find it is to look for the stories that you've told yourself over and over again. Like, what are those things that just kind of haunt you from your childhood? Your addiction to suffering is probably hiding out in that, and it likely stemmed from that.
Ooh, it's been said that those memories, those negative things that came up, or things that you internalized a certain way as a child, is the basis for the, quote, limiting belief, end quote, which typically holds us back. We have certain beliefs that came from childhood, and that's where, things stop for us in terms of moving our lives forward. Is that the same as our addiction to suffering?
I would say not always, but certainly they could be the same. It's possible, but they're not always the same. So for example, we all have lots of limiting beliefs, but we're looking for the one that takes us out. We're looking for it's like the heroin of suffering. You can inject it and you're instantly suffering. So, everybody has a different one. That's why we're all, think about family and workplace dynamics. That's why there's so many bumper cars. One person's addiction to suffering is different from another's. And first of all, we don't know we're addicted to suffering, and we don't know they're addicted to suffering, and they don't know they're addicted to suffering, and they don't know we're addicted to suffering. And so it makes it very hard for us to have compassion for one another and understand and work together.
Ooh, lots of questions. We're going to go deep here. I'm feeling it. So put your parachutes on. We're jumping down that long rabbit hole. I've heard that when you have an addiction, there is usually a pleasure connected to it. For example, somebody may use a substance. There's a pleasure that comes from that, where it takes them out of everyday life space. Smoking, there's a pleasure derived from that. Addictions, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Where's the pleasure in suffering?
Well, there's a payoff because it takes you back to your childhood. And that's where dysfunctional nostalgia comes in. And that's, we did Episode 3 was all about that. And and it's a way that we can anchor into those old familiar feelings in childhood. They hurt so good. That's all.
Oh, Chris, one part of me wants to talk with you. The other part wants me to shut this whole podcast off and let's move on. Because I don't want to confront it. And there's been many times where I'll even put on songs from my childhood. I remember them from when the ones that stand out right when I was 10, 11, 12, and I just bring them on, cheesy old songs. Is that part of my addiction to suffering?
Not always. A lot of times, that's just nostalgia, not dysfunctional nostalgia. Dysfunctional nostalgia keeps you in pain. It'll take you back to a memory that that hurts. I love to play songs from my childhood, and but if I played one because let's say I had a bad day and I just needed a good cry, and I knew there was a certain song that could help me do that, then that may be, I may just be tapping into what would, help me get free of that. But even that would be an attempt to feel better.
Hmm.
Dysfunctional nostalgia is a conscious drive to suffer by recalling those familiar ways of feeling unloved, unimportant, not enough, not good enough, etc.
Would we do this, or do we do this because we are creatures of habit and it's familiar, that feeling? So we go back there, whether it's through a song and intentional, or it's a thought, or we just want to feel that feeling again.
I think we do. I mean, I think that for
Hmm.
some reason, the unhealed parts of us are trying to heal every time we go back to those places. Because when thoughts and feelings come up that are negative, the ones that really grip us, they're coming up to be healed. And this is fascinating, and we'll need a whole podcast for this one sometime, maybe next week. But everything that comes up to be healed. All your negative thoughts, all your negative feelings, even the negative behaviors. So if you get upset and you walk in the other room and you shut the door and you're closing people out and you've shut down and avoided that feeling, that behavior came up to be healed, and the subsequent thought and feeling that went with it came up to be healed. And maybe it's nobody understands me, or I don't know how to explain my position, or whatever it is. So
Hmm.
the dysfunctional nostalgia is just the pathway to suffering that we've been unconscious about. And the question is, if we could all figure out how we're really addicted to suffering, then we can get free of it. And it's actually easier than you think to figure out. And it's easier than you would think to get free of, even if it's a lifelong pattern. So I would say, look back into your childhood. Like, what were the stories that you told yourself and that the listeners told themselves over and over again? And I'll share one of mine because I think that this will help everyone understand where this comes from. So I was probably about 7 years old. My mother and I lived with her parents and my great grandfather, and sometimes my Uncle Brian. And so we were in this multi-generational house, and we were in the downstairs family room watching Laverne and Shirley. And I was sitting on her lap in this like a Papasan rocking chair, really neat old chair. And my mom was scratching my back, and she had these nice long nails, and she was the best back scratcher. That was a loving gesture. So she was scratching my back. And I said, "Thank you, Mommy." Oh, and I said, "Thank you, Mommy. Would you like me to scratch your back?" And she slapped me in the face. And the look on my face, I can still feel it. I can be right there, was shock and horror. And I said, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "Because you said, 'I'm not going to scratch your back, Mommy.'" And I said, "I didn't say that. I asked you if you wanted me to scratch your back. So I said, thank you, Mommy. Do you want me to scratch your back? And she said, oh, and that's all she said. And I stayed sitting on her lap. And in that moment, I felt so incredibly disempowered. I should have gotten up. I should have asked for an apology. I should have and could have done lots of things, but I was 7 years old. Maybe I was 8. Maybe I was 9. I didn't know what to do. And I felt so deeply misunderstood in that moment. And I'm sure that that wasn't the first instance, but that is a moment from my childhood that I will never forget.
Mm.
And then and then let's fast forward from there. Okay. I just spoke with my mother's best friend's husband, John Dowd, like 2 years ago. And and he doesn't like to talk about the past, but I had some questions and I wanted some answers. And he actually shared with me that my mother slapped me in my face at my 21st birthday party with everyone there. He saw this.
Your face or his?
He slapped me in the face. She slapped me in the face at my 21st birthday party in front of everyone. And I don't even remember it. This is the shocking thing for me, is that I don't even remember that. And if anyone from my family would like to doubt this, I recorded it. So he said this. I believe him. He would have no reason to lie. And I experienced unpredictable behavior like this from my mother throughout my childhood, but only not my first 5 years. The first 5 years, I don't remember unpredictable behavior, but I do after that. And that made me feel deeply misunderstood.
Wow. Completely understandable. And I believe, Chris, this is your superpower because as you're sharing your story, and thank you for being transparent, I'm sure, along with everybody else, are getting memories of moments. And
Yeah.
I'm connecting one right now. And may I share?
Yes,
It's
please.
so insignificant, but I think I connected the dots to something in me.
Mhm.
So probably was about 8 or 9, something like that, and wanted a camera for Christmas. I really didn't see my dad that much, but he bought me a Kodak X15 flash cube on top. Still remember it. I think it was Christmas morning or, during the day or whatever. And had the camera. Back then it was film. It wasn't digital. So, every picture does count, but whatever. And he was sitting on the chair and I just spun around and said, "Hey, Dad." And I took a picture. And I figured, let me grab a candid. And he was like, "Why did you take a picture of me like that? Why did you didn't tell me you were going to take a picture?" Okay. So I'm thinking now that I don't have a problem with this, but I'm not super spontaneous. I'm a planner. I plan things out.
Mhm.
And I bet you that it might even go back to that moment because I was being spontaneous, where that might have stymied, me just going on a fly and just doing anything. I'll plan things out. I'm not like obsessive about it, but what am I doing this weekend? It's Wednesday. I'm already planning the weekend out. Like with this day, that day, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I try to live in the moment, but yeah, I kind of plan things out. One little moment like that could change everything for you. Same thing with yours.
Yes, yes,
Same thing with yours.
absolutely.
And we're not
And
faulting our parents because they're just piloting on what they had and what they have, whatever they got from their parents, et cetera, et cetera. But they, like us as parents, don't realize that those little moments are big moments.
right. Yeah, and as you were sharing that, I could see that your dad's addiction to suffering came into play and that created your addiction to suffering, and it was the same for me. I don't know what specifically this was in my mom that had her do this, but there's definitely an addiction to suffering in there. And and that takes us down and out. And surely, that's usually an addiction to suffering you will make it mean something about you. So I made it mean that I'm misunderstood, possibly unimportant. And maybe you made it mean something different. Like you probably made it mean like I I am not good as I am. I have to be better, or something like that. Who knows?
But
We
I
all do.
wonder in all of this, and here's another situation that just popped up. Second grade, started laughing in class. The teacher grabbed my arm, put me in front of the class, slapped my butt. I'm second grade. Like, look at me. Now I got to stare at all classmates because I laughed, and she spanked me. Today,
Uh-huh.
if that happened, she'd be in jail. And
Yeah.
I said something to my mom. It turned into a whole big thing where there was a hearing, superintendent, blah, 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 blah. I got moved out of the class, all good. She was a cranky teacher anyway. But I've been told that, by partners over the years, whatever, I just don't laugh. Like I don't, I won't be watching TV and I won't go, ah, I'm
Right.
just not me. I think things are funny. I'll chuckle a little bit, but I'm not like a laugher. I bet there might be a connection to that second grade teacher in that situation. But these things, is that our suffering? We're talking about addiction to suffering. I'm seeing them a little bit more of maybe limiting. I don't want to use the word beliefs yet, but things that are holding you back. Is that still an addiction to suffering?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's a pretty good example right there because you probably put the lid on your laughter,
Hmm.
and in that moment you might have felt like it's not safe to be fully me.
Point.
And and isn't it interesting that look how expressive you are now? And your whole career could have come out of that one moment where the teacher says, "Don't laugh, don't be expressed, don't be yourself." And here you're on the radio every day showing up for all of us.
And thank you for saying that. But I know in my heart, I would have moved much faster in life had it not been for some of those things and other things like Mr. Eaton's fifth grade class. He allowed me to express my creativity. I was, had a class newspaper, I drew cartoons and everything. He's the one that opened the door to it. But then I got to 11th grade and the teacher said to me, as I'm doing a painting and I can't do the sky. And I loved art. I wanted to be a cartoonist. And she came over and I'm like, "Man, I can't do the sky. Is that coming to write it? I just, grabs the brush, comes out great. And she looks at me and she goes, you know
Mhm.
what you are? You are an underachiever. So, oh yeah. I could tell you the angle of the sun, where the desk was in that classroom, the whole deal. I still have the painting and I'm proud of it, even though the sky was partly hers. But in terms of expression and creativity, which I am, that's my thing. Now you got all these wave. It's like a wave. It's up on the upswing now, on the downswing of the wave of things that people say and do. Um, my point here is, I'm seeing all this because you're talking about it, and you gave your example. Now I'm seeing all these things line up in my mind. Crazy.
Right. You'll see all you have to do is really get present with your childhood and go back and even talk to the people that maybe journal about it, but the
Mm,
introspection is really the key. And that when she said that to you, there's two ways to go with it.
I
Either
know.
you're going to prove her wrong or you're going to prove her right. And obviously, you proved her wrong. And I hope that she's given you an apology. That would be nice. And so, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people can't prove those people wrong who have said horrible things to them in their life about their character or who they are. And they prove them right and they believe it themselves and then they become that.
In this instance, I'm going to say I proved her wrong. And I don't normally say that, but the following year I was named class artist. And a few years after that, I came very close to being a syndicated cartoonist, but I was already doing radio. And I was 22 years old at the time. Um, the encouraging thing here, I believe for all of us, is it comes up because we want to be healed.
Yes, it does. Everything that ever comes up in your world, in your day, that is unpleasant, is coming up from your true nature to be healed. That means every instance of not feeling good enough, feeling sad, having anxiety, being afraid, worried. Did I already say angry? Feeling not good enough, or taking things personally, or being avoidant or suppressing, or anything all comes up to be healed. It is a message from your true nature. So I guess we'll not do that next week. Let's do it now. So yes.
I've never in my life of doing a lot of podcasts about metaphysical stuff and this, in many regards, limiting beliefs, childhood traumas, all of that. I've never heard that everything comes up to be healed. Um, and I guess if you were to look at it like, you have an injury on your arm, a cut on your arm, you would need to lift up the bandage and put an ointment on it to confront it in order for it to be healed. Typically you got to do something. It's telling you, yeah, it's like, oh, looking funky. It's telling me it needs some attention here. And that's what I'm seeing with what we're talking about. It's like your inner core, your inner being screaming like, help me, help me.
Exactly. Your true nature knows who you were meant to be and knows what's not in alignment with that, and knows the thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and also the physical patterns that are not in alignment with being balanced and truly you. So, like if you have a headache, you have a neck ache, you have stomach issues, you have anything, a lot of these are your body's effort to get your
Mm.
attention. And
That's a whole other area, but
oh
yes,
my
you're
gosh.
right. Like, yeah, yeah. Um, I want to go back to square one here for a moment before we run out of time. How do we each figure out our addiction to suffering? Like, is it, I don't want to say as simply as, but going back to your childhood and trying to bring back those memories and process them like we're doing today,
Mhm.
how it relates to you now? Is that really fundamentally how that would work?
That's exactly it. And, I would suggest maybe you write the things down with pen and paper. Uh, what happened, and then what you made it mean, and then how it changed you. Um, and you'll see it. It's there. It's just sometimes as clear as day. And then you can
No pun
ask your,
intended, by the way.
right?
I don't even know if you knew
I
you
didn't
did
even
that.
catch that myself. Yeah, that's great. Um, and you'll find yours. And usually there's two big ways we can suffer, but I would look for a thought, a feeling, and a behavior. Um, because
Mm.
those have real impacts and they weave through our lives. And it is not until we figure out that they are actually there that we can get free from them.
So, question on that. I'm putting pieces together, thinking, that incident, maybe why I'm going to do this as an adult or don't. This incident, that, this, that. How do you know that you're right about that situation as a kid and how you think it's applying to you now? Or is it a product of when you know, you know? Like if you feel it inside, there's a connection. Yeah, you're probably right.
Right. Well, I would say that there are many ways that we can suffer. We're just looking for the one or two biggest ways. So, it is possible for people to figure out their own. And maybe you figure out, um, you know, six different ways that you have of suffering. And maybe you haven't gotten the biggest because we're often blind to it. Interestingly enough, it's right there.
Are we blind to it because we don't want to confront it?
Possibly, but also because we've been living with it for so long, we don't recognize it.
It's almost as if it's been married 50 years. It's, to the one person, it could be the love of your life, whatever it is, but you're so used to it. It's just part of you now. It's so there. It's not there. And I'm not saying 50-year long marriage is not there, but you get into a rhythm of just, you know each other. Well, you know that part of you so well that you don't even connect to it.
Yeah. A lot of times I think that we are unconscious about that part of ourselves because it's painful, you know? I mean, like the part of you when you got spanked in front of the class, that was embarrassing. And so what you could do with that is you could follow the through thread of embarrassment through your life. And maybe you've healed that, maybe you haven't. But
Mm,
that would be, and then look at the things that are similar because embarrassment usually comes with guilt, shame, and regret. So, I mean, this is a whole world. It's very complex, but people can begin to identify their own unique suffering patterns,
mm.
especially by just remembering those painful stories from the past.
Do you find when you think of those situations that it's crystal clear? That the moment when you think of it, like when your mother, when you were 7, 8, or 9, slapped you for saying something that you didn't say. Does it almost feel like it was yesterday?
Yeah, I can still get right back to that one.
Right?
Um, yeah, and for me, one of my primary ways of suffering, besides feeling misunderstood, is holding on to pain from the past. And so if I wanted to dwell in that, I'd be a miserable son of a bitch because, there were plenty of things that happened like that that could be just instant access to suffering. Um, and I just have to have a talking to with myself if I catch myself stuck in the past.
Mm,
I'll really challenge myself, Steve. Um, I will say, why? I will ask myself, why are you thinking that thought right now? And then I will answer. And I will say, I don't want to be thinking that thought right now. And then I will say, well, clearly you must because you are the thinker of your thoughts. So stop. And then I will say, okay, I will stop. And I'm sorry to myself. And then I will say, I deserve to be free of all pain, suffering, and negativity. I deserve to be free from the pain of the past. I deserve to live in the present moment. I deserve to feel peace and love or whatever.
was it you that said I deserve last week or the week before?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I
Yeah.
mean, it's important to build neural pathways that you always have to start with I deserve. Because if you say, I am free from pain of the past, and you're suffering in that moment, it doesn't get through. Like your true nature says,
It's
no,
a, it's a, it's like I don't believe my own BS.
yeah. So, but
Mm,
if you say, I deserve to be free from pain from the past, then your true nature says, yes, you do. And it helps to build the neural pathways to actually help you live in the present moment and not be sucked back into suffering.
mm. Is it also similar to the is it true statement? I've heard that one does kind of the same thing where is it true that you should not be suffering right now? It's almost saying that, you deserve to not feel this way.
Yeah, I think
Because you
there's
got to
a,
answer the question, is it true? And then
yeah,
you answer it, and then you realize, oh, it's not or it is true.
right. And maybe even a good question in this context to ask yourself is it true that you deserve to suffer right now? Because of course you don't deserve to suffer.
Right. Hmm.
So, we all deserve to have to be restored to our true natures. And, we're instead, a lot of us are sabotaging ourselves over and over again. And at least from finding like peace and love and happiness and, not getting triggered by people. Because, freedom is not being triggered by people. Freedom is living your best life, and doing it with love and grace and ease. So if we are compromised by all of these ways of suffering, these little micro triggers from the micro traumas, then we're not free to live our best life.
Mm. Ultimately, we have a choice. We
We do
don't,
have a choice.
those people can say things and do things. They might not even know they're doing it. And it's connecting with your addiction to suffering. And then something comes up, but you don't have to allow it. We have the choice to move past. Um, it is very encouraging to know that we are wanting to be healed by allowing this stuff to come up.
Mhm.
Never heard that before, and it feels good to know that. It really
That's
does.
from your inner nature, the part of you that knows really who you were meant to be, with all of your special
Hmm.
gifts, unique ways of being, but with none of your wounding or trauma or conditioning. And so there's a part of all of us that knows exactly who we were meant to be. It's basically held in our mind, body, spirit. It's programmed in our cellular memory.
Hmm.
There's a part of us that always knows who we are. And even if we're not connected to that part, we are the ones that are disconnected. And we can get connected. It's not like someone disconnected us. We usually disconnected ourselves. We have all the,
Because we didn't want to hurt. We pulled the plug. Um, it's it's almost as if, final thought here. We're over time. I don't really care. Um, it's almost as if your core knows what's right, and it's trying to tell you, hey, you're feeling that pain. I'm like you said before, that everything comes up to be healed. It's almost as if the true you, the most authentic you, the you that knows your life's purpose, everything, this is the way it should be, is saying, I'm bringing that up. I'm putting this in front of you just so you see this, because this is not the way it's supposed to be. We got to work on this. It seems like that's what we're doing.
it is. And Steve, what's interesting is that at some point it was just tap, tap, tapping at your door. Okay. But then if you didn't know what it was or you didn't address it, let's say sadness, anger, depression, anxiety, then it's going to be pounding at your door because you didn't get the message earlier. Okay, those are all messages from nurture nature. God bless the guy driving down the street having road rage. Guess what? His anger is coming up to be healed in that moment. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you walk over and explain that to him in that moment, but that's
Right.
what's happening.
It's encouraging. It's encouraging to know that. Um, and it goes back to, everything you need is within you, and we want the best for us. This other stuff got in the way.
Yeah.
This other stuff got in the way, and dare I say, most of it not by choice. It just came up, and as a kid, you internalized it in a certain way. I don't think any child who got slapped for a misunderstanding would interpret it any other way than you did, without a doubt. And totally understandable. I mean, me and my father kind of yelling at me, taking a picture without his permission at the moment. Yeah, other kids, it might just roll off their shoulder. And I'm not saying it did affect me, but as we said before, when you know, you know. I think that, there's something there. Why am I remembering it? Why do we
If you're
remember?
remembering it, it has some pull on you. Yeah.
There you go. Uh, Wonderful talking with you today. Revelations all around. Kind of crazy. How do we connect with you? If somebody's looking for some support, and again, you run deep, energy healing, a lot of this can be helped with that and so much more. You're there to help. How do we connect?
Check out my website. My contact info's on it. It's chrisclearday.com. And you can call or email. And I do want to mention I've got a three webinar series coming up on navigating your past, navigating your present, and navigating your future. So if you want to get free of some of this stuff, it's supposed to start next week. I have to check enrollment and see how many people I have, but I'm limiting the class to 20. And there's going to be individual coaching. If I don't have enough people, then I'm going to postpone it.
Gotcha. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for all the insight, your transparency, and helping us navigate and understand this. This is everything. We just don't realize it.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve, for everything you do.
Oh, and we'll catch up soon.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.